The thorny path. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, leaving the streets bathed in a faint orange glow. Jessica sat in the cramped waiting room of the neighbourhood clinic, her eyes fixed on the floor. Madam Susan paced back and forth, murmuring prayers under her breath, while the doctor and nurses worked on her mother in the next room. Jessica clenched her fists tightly, her knuckles white from the strain. Her mind was a storm of emotions, anger, fear, and a twinge of guilt. She thought back to the scene that had unfolded in their living room just hours earlier. Her father's cold, detached face haunted her as much as her mother's bruised and bloodied form. "Jessica," Madam Susan's voice broke her thoughts. "Let's pray. God will heal your mother." Jessica nodded absent-mindedly, though her faith in prayers had waned over the years. All the nights she'd heard her mother crying out to God for help, only to endure more suffering, had left her skeptical. Moments later, the doctor emerged, his expression calm but tired. "She'll be fine," he assured them. "The injuries are not life-threatening, but she needs rest and care." Jessica felt a wave of relief, though it was tinged with bitterness. "Rest and care," she repeated silently. How could anyone rest in a house that felt like a battlefield? That night, as Jessica sat by her mother's hospital bed, watching her sleep, she made a vow to herself. She would never allow her life to mirror her mother's. She would become a strong, independent woman, someone who wouldn't be broken by circumstances or people. Her mother stirred in her sleep, her face pale and bruised, but peaceful for the first time in weeks. Jessica clenched her fists again, her resolve solidifying. "I'll get us out of that house, you, me, and my sisters, no matter what it takes." Christmas came and went with little fanfare. Jessica and her mother spent the day at home, avoiding the usual festivities. The small tree in the corner of the living room stood bare, a pitiful reflection of the holiday spirit. Her father spent most of the day out, returning only briefly to eat and leave again. Jessica buried herself in her books, preparing for the university entrance exams. She had to succeed. Her education was her ticket to freedom, for herself and her family. The last day of the year arrived, but the atmosphere in their home was far from celebratory. Jessica sat in her room staring out of the window at the distant fireworks lighting up the night sky. She was deep in thought, considering the skills she could learn to start earning money. Her mind drifted to her sisters. They deserved a better life, far from the chaos and pain that filled this house. If she could find a way to earn enough money, she could move her mother and sisters somewhere safe, away from her father's rage. Just as she was forming a plan, she heard soft laughter coming from her parents' room. Jessica froze, listening intently. Her mother's voice mingled with her father's in a way she hadn't heard in years. They were chuckling, even teasing each other. She leaned back against the wall, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. How long will this peace last? She thought bitterly. It didn't matter. Her determination to escape this life wouldn't waver. She had to protect her family from the inevitable storm that always followed moments like this. After the holidays, Jessica wasted no time. She enrolled in a nearby skill acquisition center, choosing fashion design. She'd always loved creating beautiful outfits, and the thought of turning her passion into a career filled her with excitement. The center was a modest setup, run by a woman named Auntie Clara, who had built a reputation for mentoring young girls into successful seamstresses. On her first day, Jessica stood outside the building, her heart pounding. This was the first step on a journey that she knew would be filled with challenges. Her fingers brushed over the fabric samples on the workshop table, and for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself a small smile. She could see a glimmer of hope in this path, an opportunity to change her story and rewrite the fate that seemed determined to trap her. As Jessica walked home that evening, the streets dark and quiet, she felt a strange unease. The shadows seemed to stretch longer than usual, and the faint echo of her footsteps was the only sound. When she reached her house, she noticed the lights were off, even though she knew her parents were home. Pushing open the door cautiously, she stepped inside. The living room was eerily silent, the air thick with an unspoken tension. "Jessica," her father's voice called out from the darkness. She froze. There was something in his tone she couldn't place, something that sent a chill down her spine.